What is good? So we ain't even gonna take a lot of time talking here. We're gonna go ahead and bang some things out. Y'all know this play called Sports Talk. It's 7:30 p.m. on Friday nights. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what we do. So we're gonna go ahead and drop straight into meat and potatoes. We ain't playing no games this week. We got NCAA March Madness popping off. We got NBA. We got NFL free agency. So there's lots to talk about. And we got about an hour to talk about it. So it's time to dig into it. Join with me today, Coach Dante and my man, Mr. JJ. Later on, we'll be joined by my co-host, Stephen Box. But right now, we're going to roll with this trio and we're going to get into some college basketball talk. So for this conversation, this is going to be mostly Coach Dante and JJ. You know why? Y'all done heard me talk college basketball. Y'all know how I feel. So let's get some fresh perspectives and some different insights. So, Coach Dante, we've had another round and we're starting the next round, right?
Yes, sir.
So, from what you've seen so far, man, what's excited you? What's kind of piqued the interest of Coach Dante?
What's piqued the interest of me was the way FAU has been playing in this tournament. They're this year's Cinderella team in college basketball as a 9 seed. The way they beat Purdue, the way they beat Purdue without and how they're doing it without a traditional big. They don't have a really traditional big playing as a starter. Most of these guys are 6'6", is 6'6", and that's their starting lineup. But the way they play, they can switch everything. They can shoot it. They can get out on the break. And then they beat one of the best defensive teams in college, Tennessee, yesterday. So they have very good guard play as well that can control the tempo of the game. They play at a very high pace. And, Tennessee likes to play at a slow pace. If you don't, for as Tennessee, if you allow them to set their defense up, they can pretty much dictate the ball game. If you're out in the break, and if you can get a basket before they set that defense up, then that's how you can get Tennessee. But other than that, FAU has been my Cinderella story of college basketball as a 9 seed. And I've been very impressed without a traditional big man, the way they're just playing basketball right now and being able to switch everything, getting out on the break and shooting the basketball, and that guard play has surprised me. So that is a take that I had for uh, right now FAU. And the disappointment, that I had a week ago, I did say Memphis can be a dangerous team, but the way they lost was disappointing. Kendrick Davis, the top college point guards in the nation, for him to turn the ball over in the last second like that, and for them to fail against FAU, the same team that's in the Cinderella story, it's kind of heartbreaking to me because I know Kendrick Davis personally, but for them to lose, for that to have that type of talent on that team, and to be the second best team in the conference next to Houston and beating Houston in the championship game, I really thought they had a chance to be in the same position FAU in. I think they could have got to this position, but at the same time, man, it's heartbreaking. So that's a kind of disappointing team to me that didn't really make it. But I'm not going to get on Purdue. We already expect what we can expect out of Purdue. Nothing more, just a regular season championship, Big Ten title, but nothing more in the tournament that you can expect out of them.
So JJ, I'm going to ask you that question, but I just have two quick things I want to input here. So first of all, I want to shout out Tennessee because thanks to Tennessee, Duke is where they need to be.
Yeah! 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 Yeah!
And also, I completely agree with Coach Dante. It's all on you, JJ.
I will say I'm very surprised and I'm interested in Princeton just because I've seen last year St. Peter's be a 15 seed or a lesser seed, make it almost to pretty much a national championship. They were so close to getting to the Final Four, and I would love to see what the Princeton team is going to do because I think there's something to teams seeing others in their same position go far, and to see them in the same position, they're probably thinking like, "Hey, we can take it." So I'm really pleasantly happy for them because as much as I want to win my brackets, I love seeing them get busted by seeds like them. So I'm very interested in Princeton. I am disappointed in Kansas. I did think that, I thought they were at least going to get to at least an Elite Eight. I didn't think they would have lost in the second round, and it's even worse because they got lost to a team that got blown out. Like they lost to a team that got blown out the next round. Now I just feel like Kansas, this was the wrong day to have a bad day. You know, you're defending national championships. You've seen other teams go down. The only real threat I thought they may have had in turn to win a title is currently playing right now against San Diego State. But I'm surprised. I'm disappointed in Kansas. I thought that, you know, it would have been a little bit better outcome.
Yeah, but I also want to say, regarding Coach Dante's comments, it's great to see teams start to adapt the NBA style of play, right? Because in the NBA, most teams are playing without a center anyway. So to see some college teams say, "Hey, we're just going to do the same thing the NBA teams do." For me, it's not a specific team, so to speak, but it's watching the overall game. So I've been greatly displeased with what I've been seeing lately from, the NBA and by the same respect, college, because it's a copycat. The college kids are going to do what they see their pro idols do. There's too many threes being taken, y'all. Like I saw games where guys had a chance to wrap it up, and y'all know which game I'm talking about in regulation. But instead of come down, you're already up 2 points, 82-80. Instead of coming down and finishing the game, a smart point guard decides to pull up for a bad three. He misses it. The other team gets the ball back. They take it all the way down. They score, and you end up with an overtime game where you could have had a 4-point lead and had put the game away without going to overtime. So I'd like to see the mid-range shot. It's almost like a lost art. I'd like to see that return to the pro game as well as the college game. I think the three is sexy, right? It feels like a sexy shot. Like you just pull up, you make it, it's like, oh yeah. But they're making them like 30 to 40%. So you're taking 10 and you make it 3 or 4 out of 10. Take the ball inside, guys. Get your points up, and just play a better overall brand of basketball. Everything doesn't have to be a three. And one more rant type thing here. I do not want to see another team. I know I will, but I do not want to see another team have a guy drive all the way to the goal and then throw the ball across the freaking court to somebody at the 3-point line. Why? Why are we doing that? I coach kids basketball. You know what I did to a kid if they did that? They sit beside me the rest of the game. This is ridiculous. We need better. We got to get a better game of basketball. I'm off my soapbox.
But I will say, you just said it in the beginning, you follow your idols. They do it in NBA, they're going to do it over here. And the reason why the three is sexy is because the greatest shooter of all time has not retired, and he's continuing to do it. So as long
but guess what? They're not him. And they need to understand they're not him.
Agreed, but they're going to try to be as much as they can to be as possible because everybody, like for example, everybody came up trying to be like MJ, LeBron, or whatever. So they're going to try to emulate. Like he brought the 3 ball and made it such a sexy idea that it's just going to continue going on. But the problem is, I think that I will say it's media driven too, because you notice from seeing your team playing, if you watch them, he isn't just shooting threes all day. He will attack the basket. He will try to set the mid-range or do the floaters and stuff. But I just think if the NBA is not going to change, these college boys ain't going to be doing the same.
Yeah. And I got one more statement I got to make up on this. One. I feel like, to go back to JJ's point about Kansas, I really thought it was a dangerous matchup for Kansas to play Arkansas at that moment because of the height that they had, the length that they had. They also had a guy, Jordan Walsh, who did as well as he can do against Jalen Wilson, one of the top players in the country. I thought he slowed him down a little bit. And also, Kansas hasn't been right since they lost their head coach, Bill Self. They haven't been right. They end up losing the Big 12 championship. They end up losing to Texas 2 out of the last 3 weeks. I think that kind of rattled them a little bit. And now you got to go in the tournament. Now you got to play an Arkansas team who clearly is not no ordinary, even though they did get blown out and dominated by way better UConn team. That team is evenly matched with Kansas. Jalen Wilson is the best player, no doubt, on Kansas team. You slow him down and you find a way to make him work. That's a good chance that you can beat Kansas. That's exactly what they did. And Devontae Davis killed them in that fourth quarter. He killed them in that second quarter, in that second half. Kansas had no idea how to stop them at all. and I thought they got a lot of second chance opportunities late tail of the game. But the guard, and that was without Anthony Black, and Nick Smith doing what they had to do. They struggled throughout the whole game, and Arkansas still found the way to win the game. So Kansas really missed Coach Self throughout this time. I think that made it kind of impact. And the way UCLA lost last night was heartbreaking. But you cannot go 11 minutes without making a shot. At some point, when do you take the ball out of Drew Timmy's hand? When do you find a way to take the ball out of his hand? You see him going one. You're the coach. You're a coach. You cannot let Drew Timmy get into a rhythm. You cannot let him get momentum. You got to send a double team. You got to send a double team to him. You got to make him get a ball up. Outside of Drew, the offense was able to get going because of Drew Timmy. Now you're seeing Malachi Smith starting to make some shots. But again, you cannot go on an 11-minute drought without scoring the basketball. I think that's what lost them the game last night, going on that 11-minute drought. Now, Amari Bailey was able to hit a big shot, but at the end of the day, that 11-minute drought that they went on, that's what lost them the game. And most of them was good shots. They could not shoot the basketball. Some of them was forceful layups. And at the same time, you just got to shake Julian Strawber's hand for making a hell of a jump shot. I mean, that wasn't a good shot at all. You could have drove to the basket, made a play. He took a three-point shot. That's the point. You got to shake his hand and say, man, that's a great shot, man. It just went in. But that 11-minute scoring drought killed UCLA last night.
Cool, but you made it. Yeah, that goes to Cool's point. Like, you're doing bad plays that you're banking on trying to resolve. And I think to Cool's point, I know we got to continue. If there's one thing I hate that teams go for the win, has to go for the tie, to go for overtime. And it started in the NBA. You know, if you're down by 2, logical thing back when we grew up is get that quick basket, go to overtime or cause a foul. But most guys nowadays go for the 3.
Yep. And I want to shout out K-State, man. They played a heck of a game that I watched yesterday. That point guard. Yeah, the way they playing now. That point guard, man, he's undersized, but that dude got hard for days, and he know how to run that team, man. I love to see that. And I was my goal was to like peruse through the games, right? I started watching that game. I was like, nah, we got to stay here. So I ended up staying and watching all of that game. It was a really good game, man. I'm very excited about that. I love to see those teams that are kind of in the middle. Like, they may be a good seed, but you feel like they don't deserve it. But they show you that they actually might have deserved a better seed. And I think this is one of those teams that's done that so far. I always like to see that. It's always very exciting, man, because you just the tournament just gives you so much, right? You come in, you have these expectations, especially this year. I think Coach Dante made an exceptional point. Kansas is not Kansas without Bill Self. We see that. We see how important he is to the program. Shout out to Michigan State for going further than a lot of people had them that weren't Michigan State fans. So, you know, that's big on their side as well. So a lot of great things happen on the men's side. So do you guys have any other comments on the men's side before we switch over and talk about the women's tournament?
Just keep getting these great games. Alabama looked like they might have it this year. This looked like this might be Alabama's year.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, can't overlook San Diego State, how good they are defensively. But I think Alabama without Brandon Miller, when he's struggling, it just, to me, I don't see Alabama I think they're beatable if Brandon Miller is not doing great, if he's struggling, Alabama is not that good of a basketball team. They're not that good of a basketball team. I know you got Quinterly is there. You got the big man. He's pretty solid, but Brandon Miller's the engine to make that team go. Without Brandon Miller, or if Brandon Miller's struggling, I don't know how good Alabama is.
But would you agree that if you have a great defensive team, it gives you a best chance to create offense?
Yes, I definitely, yeah.
Which allows the team to have a guy struggle to still keep him in game. You know, if your defense is A1, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Okay. So no other thoughts on the men's game, correct? So we'll go ahead and move over and we'll talk about the ladies. So just one quick question, and I'm gonna let you guys answer it when it comes
Okay.
to the ladies.
What do you guys want to talk about?
I didn't hear it.
It said, "What do you guys want to talk about?"
If I could, if I may, I want to see my girls go against South Carolina. I really want to see my Maryland girls get a chance to beat North Notre Dame and get to South Carolina, just for the simple fact of the matter is, I think out of coming out that region, we would give them the toughest test. I don't think any other team is as capable in turning of being physical, running our defense, and being able to try to at least make it harder for them to score than us. But we got to get past Notre Dame. We know them very well. But I want to see that Maryland South Carolina matchup.
Dante, what about you?
How about the Lady Hurricanes knocking off number 1 seed Indiana with Chloe Moore McNeil, Mackenzie Holmes? This team has been really good, man. This team has really been good throughout the tournament. They had some struggles in the ACC conference, but like I say, the hottest team turns it on at the right time, and Miami definitely is turning it on at the right time. And I gotta say something right quick. I do gotta get some on my chest. Far as the lady goddamn Longhorns, how they played, that was some softest ass tissue basketball I ever seen. Coach Vic Schaefer, kind of put out there. I mean, you got Taylor Jones out there. I know Louisville. They lost to Louisville. We lost to Louisville early in the season. We know how good Louisville is. Ben Litt, we know how great she is. We know how good Morgan Jones is. We know how great their bigs are. But for you to come out there and look like that and miss layup after layup after layup, miss free throws, Shaylee Gonzalez missing open threes, can't buy a basket, was a disgraceful. And for what I watched on that ladies basketball team, did not look great at all. Taylor Jones is the biggest lady out there, 6'4". Nobody could guard her. Too big to be missing goddamn layups point blank in the paint. That's too goddamn big. Rory Harmon looking like she didn't want to be on the court. It was just an all-around straight rat-ass mess the way this ladies team looked like against the Louisville Cardinal. They weren't ready to play. Haley Van Lett definitely deserved to talk her noise and talk trash because we played like trash. We played like garbage. At home, in front of our fans, we looked like crap out there on that court versus Louisville. And we didn't deserve to be on the same breath as Louisville. Louisville was a Final Four basketball team last year. But for us to go out there and look like that was definitely unacceptable in front of the home crowd. And this team ought to be ashamed of themselves. And Big Schaefer did not have them ready, these ladies ready to come out there and play. These ladies look disinterested with no sense of urgency at all, with no heart, no fight, none of that at all. So that was my message. And these Lady Longhorns look terrible on every aspect of the basketball game that was last weekend against Louisville.
So I just want to shout out my Lady Tar Heels. They did get eliminated, but they did a lot better than the men's team. Deja Kelly got injured. She did come back in, but she wasn't the same player when she came back. She gave it a go, though. She toughed it out for a team and did the best that she could. Played well, but just got outmatched. They got outcoached, really, is what happened in the game. I was able to watch a good portion of it, not all of it, but a good portion of it. They just have to execute better, and their coach is going to need to improve a little bit. She needs to give them the best opportunity to win. And when you know your best player is hurt, you don't throw the ball to a lesser player under the goal on a horrible, supposed, like, over the top, I don't know what you call that. And the girl couldn't even handle the ball. She shouldn't have been in a position to do that. She's not a guard. She's not used to that type of play. And you win the game without even getting a shot up to try to tie the game. So definitely got out-coached, out-thought herself. But, at least somebody with a Tar Heel on their jersey somewhere.
Let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all want a rematch of the SEC dominance of the two best teams in the national title game?
Do we want a rematch?
A rematch between LSU and now South Carolina in the national title game.
Well, I'll say the same thing I've been saying since the season started. It doesn't matter who plays South Carolina.
Agreed.
Here and everybody else. I just barely put my hand on the screen so y'all can see this here.
Yeah.
And there might be a few teams that's here.
Let me ask you.
For the most part, everybody's here.
Let me ask you this question: are they? Because I was thinking about this last night. If they get this, let's say get it done to second seed, are we going to start looking at these South Carolina squads the way we did UConn when their early stages of coming up and winning multiple championships over the years? Are we going to start seeing Dawn Staley? Because when you're talking about up here, that reminds me of how it was during the Maya Moore days with UConn, that they're up here and everybody else is kind of like here, and a little bit of this.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
I didn't hear that at all, but okay.
I'm sure you can see what that was, though.
Yeah.
I could. My thing goes it goes muted, and then I don't see anything, so I didn't know.
Oh yeah, I was basically saying yes.
And I want to give some credit though to when Deja Kelly went up out of the game, because I covered the game. When she went up out of the game, gotta give some credit to Kennedy Todd Williams. She really stepped her game up when Deja Kelly went up out of the game. Now that's one player that stepped her game up when they were down by double digits. Kennedy Todd Williams kept them afloat until Deja Kelly got back in and hit that tough jump shot to tie the game. But you cannot allow that point guard to split a double team like that and get straight into the paint. You got to at least put a hard double if you're gonna double somebody. You cannot allow her to dribble through a double team and just get to the paint that easy. That was just too easy. But I do got to give some credit to Kennedy Todd Williams. When they were down by double digits twice, literally in the fourth quarter, Kennedy Todd Williams kept that team in the game until Deja Kelly came in to tie the game up.
Yep. And Deja was a liability on defense at the end of the game, too.
Yep, she was.
Not her fault, but again, she was. Coach, you got to be better. All right, so gentlemen, any last thoughts on the women's? Go ahead, sir.
If there's that, they were talking about it on the sip off last night. How far can Iowa go on the back of Caitlin Clark? I will say, being Maryland, playing her, like, she definitely has the capability to, in a game against a team like a perennial team that is a better roster than them, if they have a bad night because of her ability to play making shoot threes, I can see why people are thinking Iowa has a good chance of surprising people and doing more than they expected them to do, especially against a team that is considered considerable favorites over them. So I'm really curious to see what Caitlin Clark is going to do with Iowa.
Any thoughts, Coach Dante?
I think the team can get far, but again, I think just so like me and Koo just initiated South Carolina. I don't think nobody is going to beat. I think we only just think two teams can beat them, and that is Stanford and UConn. I just think those are the top two teams that has the best chance of beating them because of their DNA and they have great coaching over there. They have really great coaching over there. So I think those are the top two teams that I think have a chance. They won't beat them though. They will not beat them, but those are the two teams that got an opportunity. But Caitlin Clark, she with her being able to play make and also rebound and shoot the way she shoot, and it feeds off her other teammates as well. They have the potential. They can get to a Final Four.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark reminds me of Steph Curry that does a little bit more rebounding. She reminds me of somebody like that.
Yep.
Like she's that one person on a team that can help carry a team. But once you start to play the elite teams that can go against you and say, you're not going to beat us, they're going to beat us, that's where you see that bridge. And it just depends on the matchup that she ends up in. But once she gets to that defensive team that says, okay, we know who you are. You Caitlin freaking Clark. You're one of the better players in NCAA basketball. I hope your teammates are ready because you're not going to beat us.
Mm-hmm. Wow. See y'all in a little bit, man.
All right, JJ.
I always appreciate being on. Go Terps, go Wizards. I will talk to y'all a little bit later, man. Thanks as always.
Yeah, so we'll remove Mr. JJ here, and we'll add in now my co-host here, Mr.
What's
Stephen
up?
Box, joining us here. What's going on, man?
Living the life, man. Living a life, man. What's good with you guys?
Just talking a little sports, man. Yeah, just talking a little sports. So let's move on over to the NBA here.
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to the NBA, there's only one thing I can ask.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Feel like deja vu just kicked in.
Hey, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter to me.
Steven, what would you like to talk about?
I mean, I feel like if we're gonna talk about the NBA, there's a couple of stories we could talk about. Obviously, playoffs getting ready to come up, right? So talk a little bit about who we think is going to kind of get in, especially in the Wild Wild West, where it's nat booty tight. But I'm also curious to hear what y'all's thoughts are on this whole thing that happened with the Mavericks the other night.
Presente, I'll let you go first.
You talking about the actual game or just Luka?
No, I'll talk about the controversial call that has the Mavericks trying to protest the outcome of the game.
Oh man, like I say, referees miss calls all the goddamn time, man. So it's no point of that. They miss calls all the time. They blow calls all the time. They blow traveling calls all the time. So especially I understand you're in the thick of a playoff hunt. I mean, every call kind of matters in the league, and Luka, you're gonna want that call. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you want so bad on defense, if you can stop somebody for once, you can make shots when you need to make shots. You don't leave it up to the referees. And that's a point when it come down the stretch. When you're making those mistakes, not guarding anybody, and turning the basketball over, trying to be too cute, you putting the game in the hands of the referees. And that's what you don't want to do. I don't care if you're at home or on the road. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you can put a game in the hand of the referees. And Dallas do that every single night. So let's focus on the little things that you didn't do in the game instead of always trying to worry about the referees making a call when it shouldn't come down to a call.
Yeah, agreed. So shout out Snowman. What's going on, Snowman? For me, a couple of things. So you mean to tell me 2 points in the end of the third quarter is the reason why you lost the game? You had opportunities at the end of that game, and Luka missed. Your defense is trash. Your defense was trash in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. Dallas needs to stop this. Because here's the thing. Let's just say, I completely disagree. I think this is asinine. But let's just say the league says, okay, you have a case. Where do they go? What is it that you want the league to do? Do you want the league to say we're going to replay the game? Do you want the league to say we're going to give you 2 points? Then you're going to play a 5-minute overtime where we can get you 2 guys together and only the guys that can play in those games played? What do you really think you're going to gain from doing this?
Right.
All you look like is crybabies. And you are crybabies. That's why you look like it. Your owner's a crybaby, so therefore you're crybabies. Your coach is a crybaby, therefore the players are crybabies. We talk all the time about like Luka wanting to develop, Luka wanting to grow, how we want to see a better version of Luka. He ain't gonna get it there. Because all you got is crybabies above you. All your examples of professionals are crybabies. All you heard after that game was a coach, Jason Kidd, crying, Luka crying, players crying, owner crying, general manager's probably the back crying. All you get is a bunch of soft, cheek spreading guys in the organization. You can't groom a superstar, an all-star, the next guy in that type of environment. Somebody's got to man up and say, it was a bad call. Yeah, the refs should have done that. Once they saw that we were down the other end, they should have stopped it. They should have brought us down there and said, now y'all on defense. I get that. But it's 2 points, 1 bucket. You lost by a bucket, but you lost because you weren't good enough. Like Coach Dante said, calls are missed all the time. You just simply were not good enough. Acknowledge that you weren't good enough. Live with the fact that you weren't good enough and take it on the chin. Stop crying. Oh, and Luka, no more of that, sir. No more of that. You're the last person that needs to be doing that. Stop it.
So I'm going to add one simple thought here, right? So at the end of the day, I agree with everything you just said. That if this was something that happened at the end of the game, maybe I give you a little more credence. This happened in the third quarter, right? So the thing is, you said that they called it your ball. You said that they even announced over the intercom, everything else. Then they changed it during the timeout, and they notified Golden State, or not Golden State, but they didn't notify you, right? So my thing is, if you thought you were supposed to be getting the ball, where was your inbounder? Why did you not have an inbounder there? That tells me that you didn't even know what was going on, even coming out of a timeout at all. You weren't prepared. Even if you did get the ball, you weren't prepared. So to me, I agree with what my co-host said. Y'all need to stop, drop your protest, because all it's doing is make you look bad. And if this is the hill that you want to crawl up on and die on, just know you will be going home in the first round of the playoffs, because NBA playoff basketball is not for soft teams, and y'all are soft.
If they make the playoffs.
If they make the playoffs. Yeah, if they even make it, right. They might not even be able to survive a playing game.
They may not even be in a playing game.
Well, I think they'll probably be in a playing game only because, it'd be hard for them not to at least get a chance to be in one of the play-ins.
It would be hard, but this is the no defense playing Dallas we're talking about, and it is tight. But we will see how that ends up playing itself out. So, gentlemen, question I have for you. We're rolling down the end of the season. We're getting near the goal line, right? Not regardless of position, regardless of conference, regardless of the team record. Right now, who do you think have been the 5 best players in the NBA this season?
5 best players. You got Jokic, Embiid, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna put Donovan Mitchell in there. I think he mean a lot to Cleveland and what he did to Cleveland. So I'm putting down that. Those are my 5 best players all season long so far for us the playoff race. And Donovan Mitchell has made a huge impact on Cleveland this year.
So I'm gonna go Embiid and Jokic. I'm gonna put Giannis with them. I'm gonna put Jason Tatum. But for my 5th spot, this is where I had to think about it for a few minutes. I really had to go through in my mind and say we need another guard there. Could go Jaylen Brown, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with a real wild card, and I'm going to go with Giannis' teammate, Drew Holiday.
Not bad. I love Drew Holiday.
I got to think about that one for a minute, man, because I was not prepared to answer that question.
Curveball.
I see that. I'm gonna honestly say I agree with your list, except for I'm gonna replace Holiday, and I'm actually gonna go with Steph Curry because as bad as the Warriors have looked on the road this year, he's really kept the team afloat. I think that people are underestimating how bad that team is playing overall right now because he's been able to carry them on so many nights.
That's fair. It's not a bad substitution. I just like the bigger guard who has done well, but who also has facilitated. And with Giannis, being injured and having to sit some games out and everything, he's been the consummate guy on that team. But Giannis is one of the top 3 players in the league. You can't leave him out for top 5. That'd be disrespectful. So
Yeah,
I feel like you got to put them both on there. Just,
yeah. I mean,
that's my take.
yeah. I mean, I can't be mad about anybody that got mentioned by anybody because those guys are all playing at a level that they deserve to be in that conversation.
So speaking of Jaylen Brown, Coach Dante, there's been a lot of speculation about him probably not re-signing with the Celtics and looking for a team where he could be that guy. So that was an interesting thing I read about one possible scenario. I think it's sensible, but a little out there. So the scenario was Jaylen Brown going to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Milwaukee Bucks then trading Chris Middleton somewhere else and having Jaylen Brown step in. And the concept was then this would be a dynasty with that move. So you could agree with that move. You could disagree. I'm leaving it open to you guys for discussion. But Coach Dante, your thoughts on that, and also if you have a different place that you would like to see Jaylen Brown if he does leave the Celtics go, please give us your thoughts.
I say again, Chris Middleton is never on the court, so I will say Jaylen Brown could be replaced. We could replace him with Chris Middleton, but I don't. He's still not going to. Giannis will always be the guy in Milwaukee. Giannis will always be the number one option in Milwaukee. Just not when you realize when you look at Milwaukee, he doesn't take the last shot all the time. Chris Middleton does when he's on the floor, but Giannis, for us, he will always be the guy. And Jaylen Brown would not probably be a bad fit, but I would put him somewhere. How about it depends. How about Miami? I like Miami. I like inside Miami with Jimmy Butler and that culture that the Miami Heat built with Pat Riley. I like him to be the guy over there. You got Bam, you got Jimmy Butler, over there. Now you got 2 guys. They can take the game winning shot at any point of time. The only question about Miami, you don't have to figure out the point guard situation now. Now Kyle Lowry stealing money. Need to go to jail for theft, stealing that 85 mil like that. But Miami would be a good option. And Atlanta, I would say Atlanta with Trae Young. With Trae Young over there to get some more scoring over there, but I don't think that would work. But I'm just posing an option over there. But I'm gonna say Miami. Other than that,
Steven, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, in regards to Milwaukee specifically, I think one thing that people always have to kind of look at is, yes, you would go in, you'd be replacing a guy who can't stay on the court, so it feels like an automatic upgrade. But you always have to kind of consider the chemistry of the team, playing styles, things like that. That's what would be interesting to me. I mean, I do feel like Giannis can kind of adapt his style to play with different people. So I think it probably could work. Does it make them a dynasty? Not so sure on that one. I think that they're already in contention each year anyways. But I don't necessarily feel like adding Jaylen Brown to the mix guarantees them titles.
Fair enough. So for me, I think that Jaylen Brown would be a great fit in Milwaukee, but I don't see it happening because I think he wants to be the alpha. So why go from one situation where you debate it to another one? So that's why I think for me, Milwaukee wouldn't work for him. I have a wild place. The Charlotte Hornets. You got LaMelo there when he can stay healthy, right? You put beside him Jaylen Brown either at the small forward, which honestly I think Jaylen Brown is best at the small forward, or you could play him at the shooting guard. You got PJ Washington in Charlotte, which is another guy that's young, still fairly young, can grow with the core. You're going to have some cap space because you got some guys' salaries coming up. It's going to open up some cap space so you can absorb a contract for Jaylen Brown and still bring in another at least mid-tier big, which they've been missing for a while in Charlotte. And I think you can make that team fairly good. I think you can make that team a team that would be in the top 6 if you were to make that move. And then, of course, bring in some more supplemental pieces around them. So I think that would be a great place for him. A shot in the dark, but a team that he would instantly make better. And this is crazy. So Billy V's will put up his comment. He says he could be the number 1 option if he played in New York. And that would be either the Knicks. I agree with that. Or if he played for the Nets, either one, he would be the number 1 option. So I completely agree with that. But another place that I think would be really crazy for him is what if he were to go to the Pelicans for Zion? You can move the pieces around there and allow him to play, at the 2 or the 3. You probably want him at a 2 in that lineup, but that would instantly make that team better, or San Antonio. Those are 2 places other than Charlotte. I think those are 3 places I think where he can make a huge difference as a player. The style of play would not matter because the ball will be coming through him. If the ball's coming through Jaylen Brown, you're going to see a better version of him than I think we've ever seen. We've seen a couple of times where he's played without Tatum. He's always put up big numbers. I've liked Jaylen Brown ever since he went to California. His number 2 choice was UNC. Not mad at him for that. Wish he would have came, but it's all good. But I've really liked him. I like his game. I like the way he plays. And I would love to see him be the guy somewhere. And I think those are places where he could be the guy. It's going to be interesting to see that. So Billy V asks, does anyone want to play in New Orleans? I know one person that doesn't seem to want to play in New Orleans, Billy V. First name Zion, last name Williamson.
Yeah. One team to kind of keep in mind here too is Atlanta. Their team has been a little bit aggressive in free agency. They're really wanting to try to build something. He lives here. He's from here. So I can see Atlanta making a hard push for him. Is he the undisputed number 1 with Trae Young? Probably not, but you could consider him a 1A with Trae. So I could definitely see that, pairing happening because, when you talk about, Charlotte and their need to get a superstar, Atlanta's kind of in the same boat.
Atlanta got Trae Young, man. It's their superstar. That's baby Steph.
They need
Little baby Steph.
Yeah.
But anyway, so did you guys have any other thoughts that you'd like to capitulate to us here on the show in regards to the NBA?
I just want to say, man, it's going to be fun watching the down the stretch here, especially over in the Western Conference, where you've got like 2 games separating the 12 and the 6 seeds. So it's going to be fun. And what I think is going to be really interesting about that is every year we talk about there being like that one team that kind of had to go into playoff mode early, and they usually will surprise you early in the playoffs. Well, this year we're going to have, pretty much the last, 3 seeds probably to get in, that 5 through 8 are all going to be teams who are basically in playoff basketball mode for the entire last month of the season. So I think it's going to potentially create some interesting first round matchups because you're going to have guys already playing in playoff mode when the playoffs start.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna say it right now, and you can clip it. I'm gonna tell you this. Right now, the Philadelphia 76ers are the 3 seed, right? And we got the Miami Heat a 6 seed. I know I'm not going to go about last year because we all know the results of that series in the second round. But Miami is a team that's built for the playoffs. If they get in that 6th seed and have to play Philly, That's not going to be a walkthrough. Miami, Coach Eric Spoelstra. We know how Jimmy Butler plays in the playoffs. We know he can turn into the superhero Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. Look out for that matchup. That matchup will be dangerous for Philadelphia to go against right now.
I could dig that.
Yeah.
I could definitely dig that. My last thoughts on the NBA are going to be specific to my organization, as you can see behind me. Step your game up, Denver. It's step your game up time. Y'all had a little bit of a fall off. Y'all don't know what y'all been doing out there, but step your game up time. Let's get back to being the number one team in the West, undisputed. And let's show everybody that sit here and talk all this trash about how the Nuggets haven't been out of the first round, which is incorrect because they were out of the first round 2 years ago. But we're not even going to talk about that because people actually doing research before they start talking is unfounded and unheard of in these days and times. But Denver, step your game up. Let's show everybody who you are. And don't let it be the soft team that they believe you are. So with that, gentlemen, we shall be moving, of course, to NFL free agency. Lots of interesting moves this week, as we've done on our show. We'll start with you actually this time, Stephen. Give us a little bit of thoughts on your free agency moves. But before we do move on real quick, I want to highlight Billy V's comment. He says 4-2 Philly if they play Miami, in my opinion. We'll see. We will see.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about specific things because we did talk last week about, a lot of the moves have been made to that point. We haven't had any real major signings, I don't think, since then. A couple things that actually did happen today for anybody that maybe missed some of this. So Lane Johnson actually did a contract extension with the Eagles. Haven't seen all the details of it.
30 million guaranteed.
So, but I'm assuming that this was done to open up some cap space probably this year as well.
Mm-hmm. That's for 2026, so it should open up some cap space in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar is going to the Ravens. The Panthers have now added Adam Thielen and DJ Shark.
And still need to draft a wide receiver with their second round pick.
Yeah, I mean, does that really make me, be like, oh wow, the Panthers are ready to compete? I don't think it's quite what Jacksonville did with the receiving core last year, but clearly, especially after trading DJ Moore, you had to do something to put some talent in there because you're gonna go draft a quarterback at number one. He's got to have somebody to throw the ball to. The Eagles also signed Terrell Edmonds. Marquise Callaway went to the Broncos, and Marquise Goodwin went to the Browns. And also, the 49ers traded the Panthers for a kicker, in case anybody cares about that. So the thing that I'm looking at right now is not really so much about the free agency in terms of some of the signings, because we're at that point now where guys are signing 1-year deals, and it's just kind of like they're just taking whatever. You got a couple big names left on the market, but for the most part, things have kind of settled down a little bit. I think the interesting stories right now is Lamar Jackson, which, by the way, I love that Lamar Jackson is actually starting to come out and speak against a lot of these false media reports that are coming out. I love the fact he's actually coming out and calling some of those out. And then obviously the other big thing right now is people are starting to really kind of look at these pro days and look at these quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round of the draft.
Coach Dante, what do you have, sir?
I'm gonna have to say, for us, Houston, my squad, I'm really impressed with the moves that D'Amico Ryans and Nick Casario, even though we gave up 1-year contracts, proven deals, but I'm really impressed, with the front office, Nick Casario and D'Amico Ryans. Made the moves that they made. We needed every aspect of these moves. Needed some help on the offensive line. We got that. And Shaq Mason, we re-signed Larry Tunsil, who's a top 3 offensive lineman in the game. We did get some stability with Christian Harris at the linebacker position, Corey Littleton, and Rashard Denzel Perriman, who led the league in tackles. So I really like what we did. I give my all season is a B. I believe all season is a B. We just got to get the quarterback, and it's apparently it's going to be out of C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, but I'm liking what we did. Did like what we did. We got some depth at the receiver spot. I still think we're going to drop the receiver. I'm not sold on our receiving core all the way through. I still think we need to get a receiver in the room. We did get a underrated running back in Devin Singletary, 800 yards. He wasn't featured much in the offense. Wasn't featured much, but he is a close to 1,000-yard running back alongside Damian Pierce, who was a dog last year, had 1,000 yards from scrimmage. So I really liked it what we did, and I still think the Panthers, like you said, they still need a receiver. I like the DJ Chark move. He was very good with the Detroit Lions last year. I think that's a very good move for the Carolina Panthers, adding DJ Chark in that locker room.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, yeah.
So, of course, y'all know I'm here in Charlotte, so I hear a lot about the Panthers. So a couple of things have been said this week. So, Thomas Davis came out and said that based on what he's been hearing, that the Panthers are leading toward Anthony Richardson, and he doesn't think that's a good pick.
I don't think it's it either.
On the other hand,
the
team, the organization, they seem really chummy with Bryce Young, right? Like, he was told by McCown, like, hey, when you get here, help you find a place and blah, 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 and all these things. But also, CJ Stroud is there. So, what's my guy's name? Mike, the other quarterback. He had his pro day today.
Will Levis.
Yeah, that's him. Will Levis. He had his pro day today. He did nothing to impress anyone. He didn't change his value negatively or positively. He couldn't make out deep throws. He looked fatigued. He got a little flustered once he wasn't able to make all the throws. He had some interviews set up with some teams back to back that night. So, a lot of just little things with him. Things are expected of a guy that you don't expect to be, one of the top picks, right? But just interesting to see that. Bryce Young, his pro day went, pretty well. Everybody loves CJ Stroud's. I don't take pro days as seriously as some people do, except for certain parts. So if you're a guy that people say they have fatigue in their arm, you can't throw the deep ball all the time, and you do like Will Levis, you got your pro day, you prove that, I take you for what you're worth. But a guy in a pair of shorts throwing to open receivers with no pressure, no defense, one route basically to throw and you're able to connect, I don't have a lot of stock in that because, as been pointed out several times over the years, Jamarcus Russell had the best pro day of any quarterback, and we see how that ended. Peyton Manning had the worst pro day pretty much of any quarterback. We see how that ended. So, if you can get that high level of play from a guy who had a poor pro day and that poor of a level from a guy who had a very good pro day, I don't take pro days too much. Now, I think where it gets interesting is when they start talking to these guys, having dinners with them, sitting down, dissecting their brain, their leadership, how they feel about them as a person. So what I think for me, and I've said this throughout the thing, I think CJ Stroud is the best quarterback overall in this draft. But there's a very interesting thing in Charlotte that no one's talked about. And I'll make this quick. Andy Dalton came here. He didn't come here to be the backup all year. So if you draft CJ Stroud, who I think has the size, the arm strength, the intelligence, he's just a little bit more of the total package for me. I think Bryce Young is more ready to step in day one and play. But to me, that's what Houston needs.
Yeah.
Not drafting position, but just by who has what, but who works best. You bring CJ Stroud in if you're Charlotte, in my opinion. He has to beat out Andy Dalton to start this year. If you can't beat out Andy Dalton, he's got to beat him out before he can play this year. If you can't beat him out all year, he doesn't play this year, except for mop-up duty.
Yep.
You allow him to grow and develop. You're going to bring in a young wide receiver probably as well. It should be second round. They may go a different route, whatever. But that gives a lot of time. That gives Stroud time to develop, time to grow, time to learn the NFL game if you don't believe he's ready from day one. He doesn't have to be. Anthony Richardson, most upside of the three, without a doubt. But you know why he has the most upside? Because he has the most growth.
Yep.
He's the one that has to grow leaps and bounds. You could be doing this to bring him in. I think that's a bad idea. So I hope for the city of Charlotte, I'm an Eagles fan, so if you want to bring in Anthony Richardson, by all means, go ahead and do it. There's one less team we got to worry about in the NFC. But if you're attempting to be the best organization you could be, I think CJ Stroud is the move for Charlotte because he's the blend of still has a little bit more upside, I think, than Bryce Young, a little bit more height. Bryce Young may read things and be a little bit better at this point, but guess what? That's all good. You have time to develop because you do have Andy Dalton. So that's just my NFL thoughts there. We did talk a lot about free agency this week. A lot of other moves have been made as well. There will be more moves made this coming week. So I think we'll just circle back once we get closer to the season, and we'll just discuss all the free agency moves, team by team. Of course, everyone's starting to gear up for the draft, so get ready for that. And of course, there's been an announcement where the draft will be next year.
Yep.
And that's in Detroit.
I agree with everything you just said. A lot of the fan base on my side want Bryce Young, but like I say, I'm more of a Bryce Young than CJ Stroud. But again, I think CJ Stroud him and Bryce is going to be great. It's going to be great players. They're going to be great. They're going to be great. So at the end of the day, it's going to work out for us, whether we get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. But Anthony Richardson is the most physically gifted quarterback out of all of them. I think he needs to. I think he needs to take a year. I think he needs to sit. He's the one quarterback, with the right system, he can go and start. But he also, as a quarterback, you need to sit for a year and let him learn.
So, so let me give you guys some insight. As a Florida State fan, married to a Gator, I saw a lot of Florida games. So I'm gonna give you some insight because everybody's looking at the highlight video and they keep showing the LSU game, right? And they, oh man, he looks so good. He has so much potential. He really doesn't. Here's the thing: physically, the tools are all there, right? He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the arm strength. He only threw over 60% completion percentage 4 times the entire season. He's very inaccurate with the football. On top of that, he is very reliant on his wide receivers making big plays for him. A lot of the games, he didn't put up a lot of yardage, and the ones where he did have some yardage, it was because the receiver either won or because there was a busted coverage and he hit big plays. Look at the Florida State game. 33% completion percentage. The only reason he had 3 touchdowns in that game is because we had 3 busted coverages where we allowed their receiver to run wide open. So the thing is, when I look at Anthony Richardson, what I see is a guy who has all the tools, but mentally I've got question marks because every time he goes out there and starts missing throws, every time he goes out there and turns the ball over, I see him go into a slump. That is what I saw out of him game after game after game all season long. He had a couple of good games, but if you can't go out at the college level and throw 60% completions and look good on a consistent basis, how you going to come to the NFL and do it? I don't even think sitting for a year would do him any good. Now, maybe if he gets a chance to go sit for 2 or 3 years, really have some NFL coaches work on it, work on his footwork, work on his fundamentals, help him with his decision making, all those things happen, maybe he has a chance to be successful because he has the physical tools. But if you ask that dude to come in here and play in the next year, he's going to be a bust.
Well, the reality is, man, he's going to be a top 10 pick. He's only going to get more. He's only going to get the most 1 year to sit, and he's going to have to play. Yeah. So it's just going to be up. It's going to be up to him if he decides to get the mentals right. Right. We saw the jumps that guys like Jalen Hurts have made. The jump I'm expecting from a guy like Justin Fields in his second full year as a starter. He's going to have to be another one of those guys that are going to have to make strides, in that transition.
I think
any coach is going to say, but any coach is going to say, I can fix it. I can fix him. That's what NFL coaches believe. I can fix him. And honestly, to a degree, we did fix Jalen Hurts, right? To a degree, Buffalo did fix Josh Allen. So there have been quarterbacks that came in and people had questions about. We look back and we say, I don't know why those questions were there now afterwards. But there's a reason Hurts was a second round pick, right? There's a reason why, Josh Allen was questionable the first couple of years because it took teams time to build them. So he's going to be a project that somebody's going to take on. They have that same footage that you did. They've seen, I'm sure, more than you have. I'm sure they've talked to coaches in that building. I'm sure they talked to the equipment managers. I'm sure they talked to coordinators. I'm sure they talked to position coaches, other players, boosters. I'm sure they've done their due diligence on him. And, the reality, like I said, he's going to get no more than a year to sit. By year 2, he's going to have to play. He's going to be drafted top 10. So we're going to see if he can make bounds and move this upcoming season, because I think this is a learning year for a guy like him. But by year 2, he's going to have to hit the field and play.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, guys. So we are coming up on the witching hour. Is there any other thoughts that either of you gentlemen would like to share with us in the community before we end the show?
Yeah. I actually got a question for you, Mr. Cool. Now, what you think about the move of Edmonds, and what do you think about now? I know it's a lot of things, a lot of people going around and saying about the draft, what the Eagles do at number 10 and 30. So what did you think? What do you say to that?
So I like the Edmonds move. I don't think you ever panic. We have a general manager who can find a 1-year plug hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
We come into the year and we feel like we don't have what we need in any position. Howie's proved that he can go out and, get the right guy into the position. My question always has been for Howie is the draft. I think at number 10, we take Jackson Smith. I don't want to say his last name wrong. And
Yeah.
Yep. So I would like to take him at 10 because I think if you pair him with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown for the next 3 to 5 years, we're set at wide receiver. Then moves Quez to the 4th wide receiver or out the door. Got a guy on that we can control for 5 years on a rookie contract.
Yep.
That's the way you build a team when you have a guy that you're paying like you're going to have to pay Jalen Hurts. Tremaine Edwards, Evans, and some of the other moves that we've made, I love them. The reason that I love them is because Band-Aids. Now you go and you draft guys and they don't have to be first-round picks to come in and take those positions. At the 30th pick, I would like to see us draft a defensive lineman or a guard to replace the guard, Isaac Samolu. That's what I would like for us to do there. Again, that would be a guy that we could control for 5 years. So it gives you the opportunity to have him on the rookie contract and then that 5th-year option that you can get from drafting in the first round. I wouldn't be opposed at number 10 to moving back to 13 or 14, not 15, because that's the Commanders. I don't want to help the Commanders. The 14 or 15, about 13 or 14, maybe picking up a first-round pick for next year for moving back and still being able to get like a receiver or a cornerback at that position. Because here's the reality for the Philadelphia Eagles. You got 2 cornerbacks that are going to be over 30 when the season starts. They're 2 of the best cornerbacks in the league. But why not bring in an understudy now? Why not get a guy now that can learn from those guys? It doesn't need to play right away. He can take that year or 2 years to learn, but start to raise his level of play so that by year 3, we're getting a return on that from a guy that can step in and maybe not be as good, but be much better than putting a rookie guy out there to get burnt every play that has a raw talent. Unless it comes to the draft, and how will we trust? I'm still iffy on the draft. I still have some problems with the Jalen Rieger pick.
Yep.
I think you always had them problems, sir. So for me, a couple of thoughts that come to mind. A couple of teams that I'm actually really impressed with over in the NFC North, the Bears and the Lions. Would not be surprised if they actually end up being the top 2 teams in that division this year. Because I'm not 100% sold on what the Vikings got going on right now, and the Packers I think are due to be a hot mess. So won't be surprised if those end up being the top 2 teams. I love what my 49ers went out and did. Brought in Sam Darnold, who I think has always been a little bit overrated, but is a guy who can play really well in that system. He's a great fit in that system. You're bringing him in to really be like a second, third string guy. He could potentially win a starting job. I doubt it. I think that's going to be Trey's job. But you got a guy that's going to give you some good depth. And if there's one team in the league that knows the importance of having about 5 good quarterbacks on the roster right now, it would be my 49ers. So I love that move. In terms of what I'm really interested to see as we close out the NBA season is getting LeBron back and seeing what my Lakers could look like at full strength. I think there's a possibility this could be a championship roster, but I really need to see it all together. And I'm just hoping that Anthony Davis doesn't get hurt in the meantime.
So for me, man, just enjoyed the show tonight. Thanks to JJ for hopping in with us for the first half of the show. Thanks to Mr. Steven for joining us for the second half of the show. Coach Dante coming through in the clutch, holding it down for the squad. And we'll be back on next week. Same time, same station. Tell a friend, tell a friend to tell a friend, and tell 3 of your friends and 2 of your enemies, because just because they don't like you don't mean they won't like us. Next week, we back. Let's go.